Well, greetings, friends, and welcome to the Gospel Underground Podcast. This is episode 61, Working Deep Work. We are broadcasting live, live for us from the Power of Change World Headquarters here. We are in Blacksburg, Virginia. Well, today I am with my brother from a different mother, Jesse Fury. We are back together after a long, hiatus. Where we've both been in and out and about, and we are going to get into what we promised a few weeks ago, some practical stuff on how to attempt, and I'm using that word humbly because I realized reading this book, Deep Work, that I have issues with shallow fragmentation of my attention these days, but we're looking at practical stuff on how to attempt to work deep work. So, man, I feel like we just caught up for 2 hours. If you guys could have heard the conversation we just had, we were talking secret CIA level kingdom type stuff. Actually, a little bit of right? A little bit of everything, a little bit of nothing. It was good to catch up with you, brother. Glad to have you back.
Man, it's good to be back.
And we have a new setup here. If you could see the shed quarters now, we actually are not sitting at a little side podcasting table. We are actually, I'm at my stand-up desk, kind of on a little weeble wobble stool, and Jesse's in my really
on the old weeble wobble.
Yeah, he's in my really nice leather reading chair.
Got me set up.
We are looking across straight at each other. So when we have moments, we can do this. So because I can look at Jesse, I want to ask him before we get to doing deep work, to go in or out on some very important things. So, Jesse, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, in or out. I'll ask you a series of questions.
And now we dance.
And we dance. Jesse does dance now in the studio, which is fantastic. In or out, Jesse, question number 1. Are you guys planning to watch Game 7 of the World Series?
I'm so in on this.
All right, tell me about it.
I'm so in on this. I am a Nationals fan. Go Nats. I have been we've watched every game.
Every game.
And so all of the home games for us, I've been severely depressed.
Yeah, could it be 7 games without a home team winner?
Yeah, it could be.
Better be, right?
It could be. You know what? I thought that I was doing pretty good about not caring too much about sports until this World Series. And like halfway through one of our losses, Jenny looks at me and she's like, "You're in a bad mood."
Yeah, this is not. We were just in Houston, Casey and I, and they were Astros crazy. And my wife came home a Houston fan. I was like, no, we're from Virginia, which means we have to like the Redskins, who are terrible.
But we got the Nationals,
right? We're going to win it, right?
Scherzer.
All right. Question number 2, in or out. Have you been planning to listen to the new EP, Jesus is King, by one Kanye West?
I'm so in. I'm in. I'm all the way in. Did you know? You probably don't know this. Do you know I have like a secret obsession with Kanye?
And so you like all the people on Twitter is like, if you're a white dude and you've never listened to hip hop and you've never listened to Kanye, don't share your tweets about Kanye. So that doesn't apply to you.
Well, I don't know. I don't tweet, but I do have the Twitter. But no, I'm so in. I'm so interested.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I mean, the album itself feels a little bit
brief, rushed.
Yeah, incomplete or rushed. But there are a few songs like Selah, Follow God.
Yeah.
What's
on God.
On God. Use This Gospel when you got Kenny G coming in.
Yeah, Kenny G.
Here's the thing that
Chick-fil-A.
I love about which I still can't figure out that song. Who is his Chick-fil-A? Do you know the answer to this?
I don't know. My middle daughter's been listening to most of the Kanye.
But I'm in.
So you're in on that. All right.
Yeah.
Next question. In or out? Impeachment or nah?
I'm out.
You're out on that. All right. 4th question. Since you did not listen to the last episode of the Gospel Underground, should we tax nonprofits and churches who don't embrace and support same-sex marriage? In or out?
Oh, I got to stay out.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I know, but
listen to episode 60, friends. Jesse, you ought to as well.
I will.
In or out, Jesse? Thoughts on AirPods Pro?
Okay. I'm in. Full disclosure, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm in because I want you to tell me what are the AirPods Pro?
Jesse, you are.
How do I not know?
You're an owner of AirPods,
I
correct?
am. I love them.
Truly wireless earbuds from one Apple
Yeah,
Incorporated.
I love them.
Well,
are you telling me that they're obsolete? Do I need to buy something else?
a very expensive new version called the AirPods Pro.
Oh, they sound great. I'll buy them.
This isn't reviewish, but they have silicone tips that form a airtight seal in your ears.
I had to buy aftermarket ones. I have to put them on every time.
Active noise cancellation.
Get out.
So you might be. I don't know if you can wear them on airplanes or not. But yeah, little shorter, little different. Good battery life. Little different case. Mine are now obsolete as well, but my AirPods Pro will be next week, so you can look at them.
Are you kidding?
All right, in or out. Are you in or out on mocking others during theological disagreement and debate?
Ooh, let me go in.
Okay, please be brief and not specific.
I'll go in and say that I think that we ought to treat other people with respect when we're in a public setting, and privately too.
Yep.
But there's room privately, like you and I, we could sit here and we could like hash it out about someone and
Bust
be like,
on each other or something.
And even on someone else when we're trying to refine what we think about them. Like
their ideas and not their
ideas
person.
And their public statements. But I think we should treat each other with respect and not name calling.
Yep.
Man, and it just drives me nuts. This is why I try to stay off of Twitter, by the way, when things go down in the Christian world where Christian leaders thinks is their job, not just to rebuke some kind of, this is now turning into a rantology, some kind of false teaching.
Jesse Fury professor of rantology.
When you come after someone who's like a brother or sister in Christ and you use like these like unchristian, ungodly, uncharitable, disrespectful ways of doing it, I'm out, man.
So maybe we should subscribe to something that one very wise, maybe all-wise person once said, do to others as you would have them do unto you. Maybe that's a good idea still. All right, final question, right? This week and this next 2 weeks is a really big deal for some people who like streaming television. Apple TV Plus launches this week. Disney Plus within 2 weeks. Will you be subscribing to both? One of these services or none of them?
I'll go in and say none for now. How about you?
I canceled Netflix recently, so
I would consider doing that.
So we're probably in on these, mainly with the Mandalorians.
Yeah, that does look pretty
Star
cool.
Wars thing. We might be hitting in on that. So I am looking at my budget, being responsible. So we canceled one. We just kind of got sick of some of the things on Netflix.
Does Apple and Disney combine to be about the same price as Netflix?
It's very close. Yeah, because Netflix was $13, and I think Apple is $6.99. Disney is similar. So
Come on, maybe.
So you never know. Well,
I'll let you lead the way with those and the AirPods Pro.
We will have reviewish on the ridiculous things in the coming weeks. But our main topic today, after a little bit of fun there, is working deep work. Last time, Jesse, we were together at least, episode 59. We looked at the concepts from the book, right? Deep work. And so today, we just want a little bit of practical as well as motivational things. Hey, how do we do this? How do we, in this world that we're creating, technologically driven, distractions abounding, how do we do deep work in light of our own schedules and life? So I wanted to start with a little bit from a CNBC article, a business article, that kind of gets to some of the reality. This was an October 14th article by a guy named Nir Eval. And he said this: it's 9 a.m., you walk into your office, fire up your computer, and attempt to start your workday. Ping! Everyone is talking about Trump's latest tweet. Ping! There it goes again. A family member just texted you. You pick up your phone, and you look at a news notification. You answer your text. You check Facebook. Then you watch a YouTube video. Suddenly, before you know it, an hour has passed, and you haven't accomplished a single work-related tasks.
Yikes.
Right? This article is about the lack of focus coming at a cost. In fact, this article goes on to say that attention seems to be the ultimate scarce resource in today's economy. And if we don't address it now, it's only going to get worse. So we're here for y'all today to talk about how we might practically look in this kind of world towards doing deep work. Definition from the book by Newport's Deep Work. This is on page 2. Jesse read it to us last time. Professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive abilities to their limit. These efforts create new value improve your skills, and are hard to replicate, maybe hard to replicate by a robot. Jesse, I don't know if you have those rules that he gave in the book that kind of structured last time.
That's right. He goes through 4 rules. Rule 1 is to work deeply. Rule 2, to embrace boredom. Man, that's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. We got Disney Plus.
It's hard for
embrace boredom.
I was in line today waiting to buy myself something to eat. And like, it was so hard. I would have gotten my phone out to check something, except for I knew we were going to record this today.
So you're like, embrace boredom.
Yeah, embrace boredom.
30
I can do
seconds.
this for 30 seconds. So rule 2, embrace boredom. Rule 3, quit social media.
Yeah, I've got to talk to you about that one later. Yeah, keep going.
Rule 4, drain the shallows.
All right. And he gave 3 philosophies or ways of life we could go about working deeply. This was under Rule 1, monasticism, which he kind of described as people that have the ability, maybe that do intellectual work, who could pull aside for long chunks and periods of time.
He uses Carl Jung. He would get away for months at a time. And
the father of Jungian psychology, months at a time. Another computer scientist he mentions in the book that works similarly. Bimodalism, where you can turn on and off, kind of the busy buzz of life. Kind of in chunks, long periods of time where you go maybe on retreats for focus. And then what he called the rhythmic way, where his example was the PhD student doing from 5 to 7 a.m. in the morning. And this was one of the things that even in the book, right, Newport said, this is likely the biggest reason that rhythmic philosophy is one of the most common among deep workers in standard office jobs. So if you have a standard job where you can't take a 6-month intellectual retreat, or if you can't just unplug,
there's no sabbatical.
You got little kids, man. You got to be somewhere. Rhythmic. How do you block and schedule your week to week in the midst of a lot of shallow work you have to do? You have to pay bills. You have to go to work. You have to answer your boss's emails. You got to wipe some noses, take some kids to soccer practice, whatever it might be, rhythmic ways. And we're going to get on that here today and how we structure. So, Jesse, I want us to bridge into a little sharing. Yeah. Obviously, we have some things scribbled out, but we're going to share together how we're in the struggle. And I'm just saying, man, I realize how much social media is both helpful in surfacing things for me, but also very not helpful in making my heart really, really distracted and hard to do deep work. So when we talk about working, I want to talk about 2 things: structures of life, and then maybe some tools, right, that we can use to help us in the fight, right? Because we are a tool-making species, creation that does use tools to help our lives. The first structure I wanted to get to, which gets to this rhythmic idea, is that using a block calendar is massively helpful to me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm a visual person, as most people are who have eyes and using.
I also like to see.
I like to see my time, and so I use a week view calendar quite often. I also use a whiteboard that has an annual calendar with each month that you kind of like say, "Hey, are you about to go crazy with all that stuff on your whiteboard?"
There's a lot. There's a lot on there.
Maybe we'll throw a picture of that. Well, maybe that's the secret. We can't throw that on the podcast. But yeah, so week to week, I like to look at my calendar visually. And when I say I like to put blocks of time in. So if you're in a job that has like weekly staff meetings or weekly kind of reports you have to do, you block that in. If you have specific responsibilities to your family, maybe soccer practices, that's certainly in our life, or exercise, you block that in. In deep work, I've found, like this week, for instance, I'm doing a conference on marriage this weekend, and I'm writing a new talk, and obviously very interesting that my wife and I are having struggles with each other this week when I'm writing a marriage talk, of course. So I realized
it's probably your fault, though, right?
It's always my fault.
We did talk about that.
It's my fault. Yeah, I'm repenting. But in order to do that, to write a new message or create new content, I need to do deep work.
That's
and
right.
So that has to have a block of time to do it. And so in the book, they talked about, scheduling at least 90 minutes, because to get out of the distractions, to get focused on something you're reading or writing or producing does take time. So I like that 90-minute rule. If you got to write something, you got to put space.
Yeah, he talks in that was one of the most fascinating parts for me, where I don't remember who he's using there, but someone has done research about attention residue.
Yeah,
that your attention you kind of leave a residue or a residue of what you were previously paying attention to sticks with you for a certain amount of time. So it's, you can't just kind of flip a switch and go, okay, I'll leave this behind and move on to this next thing.
You have to on-ramp almost.
Yeah, you need that time. That's good.
And so in blocking out things, if you're a pastor out there, you got to write sermons. Highly suggest if you want to do work like that, it's like, hey, I'm going to be doing my exegetical work in understanding the Bible 9 to noon on Tuesday. And then I want to do my writing clarity, kind of putting ideas together, maybe 9 to noon on Thursday. Mornings are good for thinking because your mind is fresh, but giving that time. Now, one of the things I've done, Jesse, over the years is to overestimate how long it takes to do a task. And so if something may take me 30 minutes, typically if I'm really hyper-focused, I'll give it an hour in my calendar. I'll block an hour. And
I need to start doing that. I'm the opposite. I'm usually like, man, I can crush that in 10 minutes. No problem.
Yeah.
I'll schedule 6 of those in the next hour.
Yeah, I've learned through pain over the years that if I don't overestimate, or if I underestimate my productivity, that's what I'd say I do. I underestimate my productivity, gives more space. And then here's you'll get to learn a little bit about my weirdness. And then when it takes 38 minutes to do it and you had an hour in your calendar, you're like, sweet, I'm ahead of time for the day. And you feel better. You feel less squeeze, less stress, and you have time in margin. And I think margin gives time for what I call intellectual wandering or curiosity, thinking about things.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you how you always have you bring so much good research to this.
To the podcast.
To this, to anything.
Yeah.
And so are you blocking time to say, hey, I'm going to research this, or is that intellectual wandering time?
A little bit. One of the things that I want to talk to you about later is about this social media thing, because a lot of times it leads to very good thought generation and research for me, but it also leads to just devastating wasting of myself in life. So I think having margin for curiosity and wandering, because for instance, if you have an hour and a half, you're trying to write a message, and I start reading on a subject, right? And I'm trying to put together a thought. I might, from that, read another text in the Bible or read another article, which then generates something really good, and then you can footnote it and stuff, and then follow that train of thought into creating the presentation, the creative side of things, right, when you're putting together outlines to present things. So I think that margin, if you're always squeezed without any margin, it's hard to do good creative kind of work. No matter what we do, if we're presenting reports at work, if you're doing ministry work, if you're a songwriter, whatever it might be, I think if you don't have space, right, you can't. As a Christian prayer, right? God, help me. How do I say this? And those kind of things.
That's right. I would say that even applies for replying to emails. If I don't have a lot of margin, my emails are pretty. They can border on, is he mad?
Yeah.
Does he have a problem with me?
Is he just dismissing me?
No, I just thought I could do more than I actually can. And so these have to be real short.
Yeah. And realizing when you're doing people work, right, you want to have time to treat people like people. This was an interesting quote from the book Deep Work. 3 to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week of uninterrupted, carefully directed concentration, that means blocked out time, it turns out can produce a lot of valuable output. And he was speaking of his own life there, where he's saying, hey, if I can get 3 or 4 hours a day where I'm really focused on things, I can really put some things out in the world because of that discipline.
Yeah. And he's in a way trying to say, 15 to 20 hours of deep work per week that you discipline and set aside can produce far more value than 40 to 50 hours of, distracted work.
That's right. In and out of things where you're trying to multitask, where you're not.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, it's very hard to do, particularly when that article from CNBC, that is reality, right? The phone's dinging, the notifications are coming, and we're like, how do we do that? So, this kind of blocking out time, where in margin, really relevant to something he said here on page 100. He said, the key to developing a deep work habit is to move beyond good intentions and add routines and rituals to your working life designed to minimize the amount of your limited willpower necessary to transition into and maintain a state of unbroken concentration. And this, he was just saying, hey, you have to use these kind of rhythms and routines of life to actually follow through on something. Because look, if you're just saying, hey, I need to think deeper in life, but you're not saying, hey, from 9 to 11 on Wednesdays, I'm going to read books that provoke good thought. If you're not doing that, right, it's very hard just to will it into being without some sort of liturgy, routine, structure to the thing. And it has to land somewhere in space and time on the calendar. So it may sound a little bit crazy, like, hey, schedule yourself with discipline so you can wander in your mind intellectually and do creative good work in whatever field you're in. But without that, I mean, there was a quote in the book about artists, how artists live their lives creatively, but they kind of focus their day-to-day like accountants almost, with the time having meaning and purpose and investment.
I thought that particular idea about having the structures built in was one of the more helpful things in the book, and has been one of the more helpful things for me, because self-control is hard.
That's right.
And even the idea of scientists neurologically are seeing that willpower is, it's like a muscle, like any other muscle, right? So which means that you can grow it, but it also means when it's taxed, it's harder and harder as the day goes on, which is one reason why, dads, if you come home from a long day at work, it's harder to sustain the willpower to snap at a kid if a kid, or
it's not that you have a short fuse. It just means you're kind of your will is burned off from the day.
Yeah, you're weak, and so having the structures built in so that you don't have to fight hard to get into deep work is like, otherwise I just won't do it.
We won't. Yeah. We absolutely won't. So block calendar, underestimating your productivity. A couple other structures, and these were interesting from the book. Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft.
I've heard of him.
Heard of him? Yeah, he used to be one of the richest guys in the world. Probably still is forever because of his Microsoft holdings. But I didn't know this about him, that he does these things called think weeks, where not only just taking vacation. We all know that avocation, you need to rest from your work, but taking times where he just pulls aside and does these think weeks. Did this through his work life. I guess I did know this now because he recommends books every summer. I guess that he's deep dived on, where he basically says, I'm going to read leading thinkers on various subjects and topics on purpose just to provoke his own thought. And I thought that was very helpful, because many times I'll be listening to someone speak on something and get like massively inspired, and then go into kind of a deeply productivity kind of brain dump myself just by listening or reading something really good. And so think weeks, man, that was a good idea. And I think that if you plan like vacations in the summer and things like that, doing things that are kind of helpful to provoke your mind and your abilities and your skills and thinking is super, super helpful. This next one is really hard for me, Jesse. Silence and solitude. Alone time, right? We both have you have little kids. I have big kids. I guess I have grown children almost.
Silence is rare in our home.
Ever since they're born, it's like, how do we get alone time, which, is where you can embrace boredom, daydreaming, thinking, those kinds of things. How do we do that when kids and jobs and phones and dinging? How do we do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, it's obvious it has to be scheduled, right? We don't
just bounce on your family. Dad disappeared. Where'd he go?
Well, even in the workday, if you have not everybody has control over their schedule. So that's probably one of the biggest maybe critiques of deep work is, it's hard. No, it's not impossible because of the rhythmic idea of you can get up early, and you can make it happen. But it is difficult if you're installing HVAC stuff.
That's right. I'm running.
Although you might have solitude.
Yeah, you could run conduit all day and run electric.
So blocking time, it has to be part of that. I think one of the challenges for me in silence and solitude is, which we're going to get to, but is like the tools for it. Like even if I put my phone in the corner of my study, I can still hear it rattle if someone texts. I turn off almost all of my notifications.
You're like, who is that?
But then but my text messages are still on in case my wife Jenny wants to get a hold of me, and And then it's like, well, but probably should just go ahead and get up and check that.
Yeah, and the screen time feature on iPhones is terrifying.
It's depressing.
It's terrifying. I look at my time. I'm not going to say it out loud because it's terrifying.
I don't like looking at it. I just stopped looking at it.
I want to look at my children's screen time, but I don't want to look at my own.
What about music?
Yeah.
So I've thought about this because really the idea behind deep work for me has a lot to. You brought it up, is attention.
Yeah.
That if my attention is divided, even if I'm having solitude, but I'm listening to music, which this is what I do. My normal practice is if I can schedule some time to work on a sermon or work on a project, and it's solitude time. It's rarely scheduled for me to have no music on and no tasks to accomplish.
Yeah. I think all of my kids listen to music when they're doing homework and stuff, and I think it's more and more common. And we certainly know the benefits of music to neurodevelopment in the brain and things. And so I don't have as much problem with that if it's putting you into a state of thoughtfulness. Obviously there's other kind of music, right, where you're just kind of dancing, vibing out, just having fun.
I was doing both with Jesus is King for the last week.
That's right. Kylene was too, man. She was
most of the time I find that the music that helps me to focus more is music that is either so it's not new. I can't listen to new music and do deep work because then I'm divided. But if I'm listening to something that I've listened to for years and it's not too hot, like I'm not getting too hype listening to it. I can do that.
I have a playlist that I listen to called Chill 70s Music, which has a lot of James Taylor kind of stuff, that I'll kick on in the background in the office.
You probably use that in multiple settings too.
I don't know, man. I just throw it on, and it helps check Jim Croce, that kind of Time in a Bottle, that kind of music. Definitely did. And then I have some 90s college music, which isn't deep work music, which is like Bare Naked Ladies and those kind of music that Toad the Wet Sprocket. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then I got some hip hop stuff where I just, where I just get fired up and stuff. So yeah, man. Well, the last thing that I found useful in terms of structure was in the book called The Grand Gesture.
Ooh.
This is kind of funny.
That's the Harry Potter lady, right?
Yeah. It kind of gives you a little bit of a sniff of the elitism. This is a Georgetown professor. Apparently
Cal Newport. That's right.
Cal Newport, the author. He's got a family member that was hanging out with Walter Isaacson, who used to be the editor of Time, wrote the definitive biographies on Benjamin Franklin, Einstein, and Steve Jobs. It's like, my uncle was hanging out with Walter Isaacson.
Yeah. There's a little bit of an elite feeling.
In this example, the grand gesture.
I've been to I actually have a family member that went to Georgetown.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I turned it down to go to Radford
University.
There you
go. That's right.
The Highlanders.
The Harvard of the Southwest Virginia. You were right to do that. So the grand gesture was this example he gave from J.K. Rowling, obviously the author of the Harry Potter books, who she just had to get away. She went to I forget the name of the hotel. It was a very pimped out hotel.
Some hotel that if you were elite, you would know what it is.
You would think you were walking into Hogwarts, perhaps. So, and the concept was, here's from the book itself. The concept is simple, and we're going to have to translate this because we're not going to these fancy, I think it was like something stupid.
It wasn't the Hilton.
Like $1,000 a night hotel. Like, it wasn't where I could get it on my hotels.com app and for 2.5 stars.
Get a little bit of a deal on it.
Get some free cold hard-boiled eggs for breakfast. So, but I think it is translatable. We'll lay it out for what it is and then translate it into normal folk life like us. The concept is simple. By leveraging a radical change to your normal environment, coupled perhaps with a significant investment of effort or money, all dedicated towards supporting a deep work task, you increase the perceived importance of the task. This boost in importance reduces your mind's instinct to procrastinate and delivers an injection of motivation and energy. And so she obviously went to this hotel and was very productive in finishing one of her books and then began to write from that hotel quite a bit. And obviously the Harry Potter books are some of the most well-sold books in the history of the world. And she was able to do this. But I actually like this idea. Obviously, I can't do it in the elitist kind of fashion, but I remember when I would do a large introduction to a new sermon series, and I would usually write some significant piece, like on introducing the Gospel of Mark, or we did a series on apologetics, and I wrote like this 14,000 word thing for our church, right, for our people, stacked up the books. And what I would do is I would go down to Casey's parents' cabin, which is about 2 hours south of here, for like a week by myself, right?
North Carolina mountains.
Yeah, North Carolina, right on the river.
Yep.
And so It required my time. It also did something. It puts you in a place where there's a little bit of good pressure, I'd say, where, hey, my family's letting me away for a week. I've got this big stack of books.
I can't come back empty-handed.
I got this big stack of books here that need to be read and footnoted and systematized. And so some really good pressure to try to really focus on the task at hand. And even one time when I couldn't get away all the way down, I went to this hotel near Princeton that was like, we got on Priceline and got it for like huge hotel, a lot of inventory. It was a Hyatt, I believe. It hadn't been renovated yet. And they would have this I get it like for $48 a night, low bid it, name your own price. And I went and stayed there 3 or 4 days just to try to focus and write, and very helpful, but not expensive. But I think having some skin in the game like that does make it a little more urgent. And so it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. So I felt like this was almost combining two things that have been helpful for me. One is, so I guess getting away to like a friend's cabin, it's not quite so grand, right? There's not as much of a monetary. But
it's grand for us.
But it's grand for us, right? But then there's also almost like a sense of reward. So I was wondering about that, because I get an injection of motivation if, like, at the end of this project, there's something. There's AirPod Pros.
Right. No, yeah.
Like if you told me I had to write something or do something or come up with something or develop a system, and it was like, hey, and at the end of this, you can get these things. Like, even if it was my own money, if it was like, well, shoot, I did the project.
That's right.
I would be like, all right, I'm on it today. Deep work, baby.
Yeah, this is something that is neglected maybe in certain Christian traditions. This idea of reward is massive in human, Now, obviously, this is important because a lot of times, you say non-Christian people, even some folks I grew up with, would think, what is Christianity? Well, it's you're fearful of judgment, so you better change your behavior.
Right.
And obviously, you and I know that's not the motivational factor for following Jesus.
That's right. It's not just a carrot at the end of the stick.
Or it's not a stick that's going to hit me, so I better run for
Either
something.
way, yeah.
Or it's just like, hey, give me a carrot, I'll get heaven.
Right.
But there is, because we don't want it to be presented that way, we can neglect the aspect that there is a reward involved, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That not only that, but he will reward all those who loved his appearing. Like, we get God. We do look forward to the world without sin, death, hatred, dying, disease, crime, right?
Yeah.
That is going to be such a blessing in the end.
Yeah.
That it does have an effect, right? Because that's the grand gesture of the Lord, right? In my house are many rooms, old King James, many mansions, right?
Mansions, yeah.
We can abuse that, but like, we'll have the crib, right, next to my wife. Don't have to be married in heaven, but we'll get to hang out. This idea of this grand gesture, I think, shifting our moment into a time of focus with a perceived reward, blessing, and some urgency, maybe even some
I'm gonna do this.
pressure. Yeah, get away with your wife and do some deep work and reward yourselves afterwards. I think it's very helpful. So structuring, blocking your calendar, leaving some margin in time, making sure we get alone so we can pray, think, embrace boredom, think weeks and grand gestures. These are very helpful structural things. Now, let's get to some tools. We need tools because we've made tools. I always find it very bizarre that the things that human beings create require us to create other things to deal with our own creations, right? Think about it, how much, we need to have carbon dioxide sucking machines to limit, greenhouse gases. Now, I'm not trying to get political, but this is an example, like, create technology to solve problems that our technology gives us. And I don't think this is necessarily bad. I think it's just kind of the nature of human beings. Yeah. We create things, we don't know all the collateral consequences of them. We start to see them, like with the iPhone, creation of smartphones. We're like, wow, this is great. Man, I can Google, I can know anything at a moment. But then the thing never leaves us alone, right? So how do we deal with the tools we've made by using tools that we might made? So in terms of technology, we're going to hit it right away. There are features that have been created in technology that help us now, like do not disturb. There's a little half moon, at least in iOS, where you can say, I want it do not disturb. That'll keep it from notifying you for things or taking you out of looking at things. So sometimes you're working on your phone, you want to focus a little bit more. Do not disturb is helpful, but I've found that even that, Jesse, I sometimes just throw my whole phone into airplane mode. And not just because I'm on an airplane, but saying, hey, I want no radios connected. I don't want to get anything from the internet. I don't want to get calls, texts, or anything. But I am maybe doing a brain dump into Evernote, so a tool I use for like thinking and brainstorming. I've used airplane mode. You can turn off and limit notifications by app. You can really, really dial those down so you don't get them. And I think anyone trying to do work on your desktop computers, your laptops, your tablets, your phones, whatever, limiting notifications, those little teases of temptation that will draw you away.
Yeah, I think turning off notifications like unsubscribing to emails.
Get off that newsletter.
If I don't limit them or turn them off, and if I don't unsubscribe, I'm not getting anything done.
That's right.
As soon as I open up my email, and if I've got a ton of, I was just like, oh, I didn't know I wanted this, but now that it's in my inbox, I'm going to look at it and figure out what to do with it.
This is funny, man. Since for whatever reason I updated the email software I use on my iPhone, and for whatever reason it will not show the badge number, like when you have 15 new ones or something, it'll do a little red bubble. Yeah. I don't know why. It just won't work anymore. And so I've realized how messed up I am, because I'm like,
why is no one emailing me?
Well, no.
Oh, no. Okay.
I wish that was the case. That would be amazing. Wow, still have no emails. That would be great. I don't assume that. I assume, oh my gosh, what's underneath this button when I push this app and go into it?
How many are going to be there?
And it terrifies me. And that's so terrible. But like right now, I just looked and there's a bunch.
Don't look. Don't look. Don't do it.
But don't look. So that's a little weird thing that showed me kind of like, man, my heart is really kind of jacked here. Something we've used as a family, I use both in my office and in the house, charging stations, a place for your phone to go and live where it doesn't get used, where I also can top off your lithium-ion batteries. But I think that's very helpful. It's something very simple, but hey, go put it in airplane mode and stick it on a charger away from your person when you're trying to think and do good work. A couple other tools. Jesse, I know you're a paper guy.
I do like paper.
How can paper help us in this day and age?
Oh, you mean books. I like my paper to come in books. So I think when we have a book is just doing one thing. So when we think about like our attention, our attention is being monetized. It's being sold, and that's really what makes an iPhone or an iPad or computer so difficult. Is that the very things that are on there in order to steal your attention. Yeah. Like for those apps to be successful, they're stealing the very thing that you want, that you don't have very much of, and that you need to do deep work. And so a book, like you're not going to read a book unless you want to read a book. This is just a single line, right? It's like, I want to give you my attention, and then that's what you are delivering to me.
It's linear.
And I think that there, even with our technology that goes, so obviously a book is technology, but I think this is where something like a Kindle device is valuable. So I have one, but I still use real books. I like the way they feel and smell. But with a Kindle, at least, it's still unilateral, right? Like Amazon wants you to buy books, so they give you this device with books on it, and you want to read books, and it's like, this is a rewarding relationship.
That's right.
It just keeps me simple. And then anything that they have on a device like that is not good for anything. You can't you could get on the web, I guess, but it's not. You wouldn't want to.
Right. Most people who use Kindles use it for reading.
So I think that direct attention line is important.
Yeah, I tell you what, reading books. I know I don't have any research cited on here right now, Jesse, but I know for me, I actually can remember things better when I've read them in paper. I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's some.
Don't you think your brain gets more, like you're more present with it, aren't you?
I think it's because you're seeing it in a space, and I think human beings were created to work in space, right? We're embodied creatures. We're living in a world that God made, and that I think when we see and touch and interact with things, it does have a holistic effect on our memory.
That's one of the reasons why I want to recover the use of space to mean actual space.
Yeah,
we could save that for another time.
We should do that, because I've been doing, we will do that in a couple of weeks, because we're going to do a really weird podcast on.
I love it. I love weird podcasts.
On the ideas of Don Hoffman, who's a cognitive psychologist, who's putting forth this idea called conscious realism, where he thinks everything is mind and The world is just kind of like an operating system abstraction that we use to get along in the world. But we'll get into what space is and what it is and realism, anti-realism, and that. So can't wait for that. So books made with paper help us to think well and help us to focus and not be dragged away by the temptations of notifications, little dopamine hits that say, "Ooh, somebody liked my Instagram photo." This is a tool that I've used, both of these things, long walks and showers. Now, there's obviously the use of resources to take long showers. But for me, I'm able to think. I think it's because there is no distraction. You're alone with yourself. You're literally naked in the world before God. And I find
you're talking about in the shower.
In the shower,
not on your long walks.
No, I've never. No long walks.
Middle of the night, I hope, at least.
But when you can be alone with your own prayers, your own thoughts, your own self before God, there's a vulnerability for sure. And there's also a focus that I think some of the best ideas that I've certainly engaged with have come through these kind of settings. And one of the things that, obviously he had his flaws and characteristics that were not virtuous, to use that word. Steve Jobs was very known for taking walks, both by himself, but also to get business deals done and to converse with others, just to get out moving. Many people have found that a little light exercise helps the holistic nature of the body and certainly the mind-brain interactions that are helpful there. Long walks and showers by myself have been helpful to that. I don't know for you if there's ways you've gotten alone, maybe running. You're a runner. You can run marathons.
I would never say I'm a runner. I have run a couple of half marathons, but I've never woken up and thought, man, I need to go on a run.
You're like my daughter who says, I hate math, I'm not good at math, and then she smashes the math SAT.
Well, the difference is that I finished a half marathon.
But you can't run 13 miles if you're not a runner. It's just
I also like long walks.
Okay.
So I've got a great neighborhood for it. We got a little quarter-mile loop. And I get to see my neighbors, but not talk to them because
you don't have to go up and down hills, or do you?
No.
Oh,
Radford,
nice.
Our town is all hills except our neighborhood is like
a plateau.
A flat plateau, yeah. So
Funny.
Love long walks.
Awesome. The other thing, this is maybe let's not tell our pastor. I find that I get really good thinking done listening to sermons, both in person as well as on audio kind of devices or podcasts or audiobooks. Now, I typically read books on audio that I don't have to regurgitate or memory. Right. They're just pleasurable reads. But in doing so, I can be on a walk listening to an audiobook, hear something that's kind of inspirational and takes me into a thought world that I go somewhere else. And I've found that even on a Sunday morning, sometimes listening to a sermon, I've told my kids that I can do this, and I promise you, Jesse, when you're preaching, I can do this. I can listen to you and then write something at the same time, and sometimes that's very effective. Like I just get these rushes of ideas from something that you or Brett or whoever my pastor would be at the time. So I get some good, really audio inspirations that are tools for me to kind of get ideas and things like that.
Yeah, I wonder what that is, because I don't preach as often as Brett does, our lead pastor, and I will often find now. I don't think it's that I'm not paying attention. I think actually it's the opposite. I'll often find myself paying very close attention, and then something he says will send me off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I can pay very close attention at that point, but I'll get hooked back in.
Right.
Which I think, by the way, is a good reason why sermons ought to have attention hooks, ways to get someone back in.
Back in,
right?
yeah.
So, which don't have to be stories, but anyway, but I'm with you, man. Like sometimes I'll just be like, that made me think about this other thing.
And you use do you use like moleskins, or do you use like little writing notes?
I'm a paper guy. I've got a notebook with me all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm writing with my little fountain pen.
Jesse has a nice pen, and he when he underlines in books, he doesn't use like this like ghetto highlighter that I use. He uses like a ruler and a pen to underline in books, and it looks absolutely amazing. Fastidious.
I don't like going back
fastidious.
and seeing messy underlines.
You would hate the way my books look. Absolutely atrocious. Yeah, so have a place where you dump things. That could be moleskins, that could be fancy notebooks. I mean, I think investing in those things is helpful because that's where you do some of your thought life. For me, I used to actually use moleskins. I have stacks of black notebooks that have like all the origins of Jacob's Well scribbled out in them. Which
I
is
got them too. I'm waiting for my kids to be interested
Oh,
to
man.
read through them word for word. I'm sure nobody will ever open them again, but I still have them too.
Oh man, I've told my kids when I die, just read everything on my blog, listen to all my podcasts because they say, Dad, we don't listen to your podcast. That's their big joke, and read through my Evernote, right? Because I use Evernote now. I am very digital, and I'm not writing in notebooks as much, but I dump into Evernote all the time. It's kind of my staging area, where I still will go to kind of a word processor for final products. If I'm writing something, but I typically go to Evernote to outline, to dump. Obviously, we do podcast outlines in Evernote. And it's so you need tools that will help you put your thoughts somewhere to help them emerge, be organized as you go. So you carry a notebook in your car where you can scribble stuff out.
Can I throw one more thing in there that helps with deep work with notebooks? I have found that having a notebook where I can dump ideas as they come to mind. Really, actually, a better way to put it is stressors. So if I've blocked off 90 minutes for deep work, which just happens, and then it's like the second I start trying to get deep into something, I think of the 10 things that I couldn't remember to do like 20 minutes ago, but now suddenly my brain's like,
they're on you.
Now here they are. And so being able to put those in a holding tank that's not connected online. So for me, paper, I can write those down, put the book down, and then I can focus, knowing those aren't going to disappear out of my brain
it's
again.
Safe at home in a place where you know you're going again.
It's not being deposited into a tempting, distracting thing like my phone notes or something.
Amen, brother. That's really good, man. Well, as we wrap today, I ran across probably from Twitter. We're going to have to do this next time, Jesse, to talk about this social media thing. We'll do that because I think you're reading his ex book on...
I am. I'm about to start it's called Digital Minimalism. That's right. And I'm going to take his advice and do a digital decluttering for November.
Wow.
So I can talk about my experience.
We need to put this in a side notebook because next time we need to talk about that because killing social media is such an attractive and terrifying idea for me that I want to hear on that next time. And I want to talk about his unique setting as a professor because my big use of social media is to connect with other people who think about things that I want to talk about. And I'm not in the halls of Georgetown or at Bell Labs in the hub and spoke where all these smart people are.
Yeah.
We're in the shed quarters, man. So how do we connect? That's for next time. Throw it in the notebook. As we close today, one more article from a business kind of website, Fast Company. This is by a guy named Tomas Chamorro-Premuzic, hyphenated. And he said this: the last 2 decades of academic research reveals that these indispensable individuals are far more similar across jobs, cultures, and industry than people think. He's talking about people that are vital to organizations. They have 3 major traits that set them apart. They tend to be smart and curious, right? Which means they learn faster and better than others. They tend to have better people skills, so they are effective in their interpersonal relationships. They are driven and hardworking, which explains high productivity rates. But one critical dimension of talent appears to be mostly forgotten and is surprisingly absent from companies' competency frameworks and high potential models. So companies are going to have these, hey, what are we looking for in high-level leaders? Well, he calls this a talent, but it really isn't, and which I think anybody can do. It's important. Its importance is such that it can amplify or extinguish any other aspect of talent, right? Including the benefits of learning ability, people skills, and work ethic. That trait is self-control. And it explains why some people are much better to resist temptations, able to make short-term sacrifices to pursue more meaningful long-term goals, not just at work, but in any area of life. Without self-control, every other virtue, skill, or ability is rendered futile, as any significant accomplishment starts with the ability to manage oneself. As Plato, that's the old Greek philosopher, once said, the first and best victory is to conquer the self. Now, Jesse, let me close with this. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law, and those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires, and its luring notifications and distractions of life.
Pings.
Ping, 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 self-control. It is a gift from God that if we trust and walk by the Spirit, He will place and put into our story so that we might be able to do good, deep work. Jesse, thanks for joining me today. The Gospel Underground is a joint production of Power of Change and the Bonhoeffer House. Review us. Set aside time right now to review us on iTunes. 5 stars are acceptable. Send your comments, feedback, questions that you might want us to take up on the Underground. Remember, Jared Lynn, Crew Global at Brown University Athletes in Action, said, hey, check out Cal Newport. We're doing that, Jared. Thanks for the shout out. We are a dialogue taking place in the borderlands between church and culture. We hope you see you out there.
Peace.
Peace, peace. Next time, Jesse. Minimalism.
Minimalism.
Social media. Yes or no?
Baby.
We out.